Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of the CyberClinic Podcast. In this episode, we explore how artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and digital innovation are reshaping healthcare, mental wellness, and our everyday lives. I am Claude Bernard, your host, a cybersecurity advocate and doctoral candidate in health informatics. Today's conversation is both personal and powerful. We are diving into a growing epidemic that often goes unseen, even in our hyper-connected world: loneliness and social isolation. You might be surprised to learn that loneliness is not just an emotional state, it is a public health crisis. According to the US Surgeon General, its impact on our health can be just as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It raises our risk for heart disease, stroke, dementia, depression, and even premature death. But in a time where we are surrounded by constant notifications, endless Zoom meetings, and digital followers, why are so many people still feeling alone? In this episode, we will explore the biological and mental health effects of chronic loneliness, how isolation affects not only seniors but also teens, remote workers, and caregivers, how AI and predictive analytics are being used to detect and even prevent loneliness, real world tools, strategies, and hopeful solutions for families, healthcare systems, and communities alike. Whether you are a clinician, a caregiver, a tech developer, or someone just trying to understand your emotional well being better, this conversation is for you. So let us talk honestly, let us learn something new, and most importantly, let us reconnect. Welcome to episode 15 of the Cyber Clinic. Let us begin with Anna's story. She's 34, thriving in a high performance tech job, and immersed in a world buzzing with digital chatter, Zoom meetings, Slack notifications, a steady stream of emails, and dopamine hits from Instagram likes. However, Anna eats dinner alone in silence, accompanied only by the glow of Netflix. It has been over 2 weeks since she has had a meaningful conversation. She wonders quietly, would anyone notice if I disappeared? Anna's experience is not an outlier. It reflects a widespread, often unspoken epidemic: loneliness amid constant connection. She belongs to a growing group of adults who are digitally saturated but emotionally depleted. What's the difference between loneliness and isolation? People often confuse loneliness and social isolation, but they are distinct concepts. Loneliness is a feeling. You might be around people all day and still feel emotionally disconnected or unseen. Isolation is more about your situation. It means having very few or no social contacts. But some people who are isolated don't feel lonely at all. Think of it this way: you can feel lonely in a crowded room. You can be alone at home and feel just fine. Loneliness is about the quality of connection. Isolation, on the other hand, is about the quantity of connections. Both are harmful, and when they occur together, the adverse effects compound. What is the Surgeon General's wake up call? In 2023, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy released a landmark advisory declaring loneliness and social isolation as a public health epidemic. He warned, quote, "The mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to smoking 15 cigarettes a day," close quote. This is not just a metaphor. It is backed by decades of research. Disconnection increases the risk of premature death by 26 to 29%, matching the effects of smoking, obesity, and inactivity. Dr. Murphy's message: loneliness is not a soft issue, it's a public health emergency. Let's see what's in the numbers. A nation disconnected. 3 in 5 Americans report feeling lonely. According to the Cigna US Loneliness Index in 2020, among young adults aged 18 through 22, loneliness is the most severe, even though they are considered digitally connected. The Global Risks Report by the World Economic Forum lists mental health and social fragmentation, driven in part by loneliness, as long-term global threats. Bottom line: the more wired we are, the more emotionally unplugged we are becoming. It turns out having followers is not the same as having a connection. Now let's bring in some research. Dr. Robert Waldinger, director of the world's longest running study on adult development, over 80 years long, found something profound. He said, "The clearest message from this 80-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier." That's not speculation, that is science. That leads us to this pertinent question. What are the cultural and economic influences on loneliness and isolation? Let's zoom out for a moment. Loneliness is not just about who you know or whether you live alone. It is also profoundly shaped by culture and class, the social environments we are born into, and the economic systems we live within. The cultural influences, collectivism versus individualism. Cultural orientation plays a significant role in how people experience loneliness or whether they experience it at all. In collectivist cultures, like those found in parts of East Asia, such as China, Japan, Latin America, such as Mexico, the Caribbean, and many African nations, social connection is often rooted in shared identity and group belonging. People are raised to value interdependence, extended family ties, and mutual care. These communities often maintain multi generational households, rely heavily on family networks or emotional and practical support, and place high social value on being present for one another. In such environments, even older adults or individuals with limited mobility are often surrounded by social rituals and caregiving structures that reduce loneliness. A large scale cross cultural study published in Nature Human Behavior in 2020 found that, quote, collectivist values serve as a buffer against loneliness, especially in aging populations, close quote. This does not mean loneliness does not exist in these societies, but it is often less pervasive and less stigmatized. Now, contrast this with individualistic cultures like the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom. In these settings, autonomy and independence are seen as markers of success. People move frequently for school or work to prioritize self sufficiency over social obligation. The result? We see more emotional fragmentation, weaker community ties, and higher levels of social disconnection, particularly in urban areas. Even success stories like high paying careers or luxurious homes do not always come with meaningful relationships. And for aging populations in individualistic cultures, loneliness can be especially acute since independence often translates into living alone, being far from loved ones, or having limited mobility without built in community support. Economic influences, the loneliness of poverty and wealth. Economic status is another powerful but often under-discussed predictor of loneliness. For people living in poverty, loneliness is not just emotional, it is structural. Low income individuals often face housing instability, such as frequent moves, unsafe neighborhoods, or lack of a home base for socializing. Reduced access to transportation, making it harder to meet friends or attend events. Limited disposable income, which exclude them from many social activities. Stigma, which can lead to withdrawal and feelings of unworthiness. They may also experience job insecurity, inconsistent work schedules, and higher exposure to stressors like food insecurity or lack of health care, each of which chips away at both mental health and the ability to maintain social connections. In the Lancet Public Health in 2022, Holt Lundstad and colleagues concluded, quote, low income is one of the strongest predictors of chronic loneliness, especially when combined with poor health or limited access to supportive community environments, close quote. But what is surprising to many people is that wealth does not always protect against loneliness. In fact, in affluent neighborhoods or professional circles, privacy is often prioritized over social integration. Homes are physically distant from one another. Think gated communities, luxury condos. Social engagement is curated or transactional. Networking events invite only circles. People are busy, competitive, or afraid to be vulnerable, especially in high performance environments. This creates social isolation by design. Even in households with the latest tech, two people might sit in separate rooms, streaming shows or scrolling through separate feeds, barely speaking all evening. Real world takeaway. So, whether someone is struggling to pay rent or has every material comfort imaginable, the emotional and physical realities of loneliness can still creep in, just shaped differently by culture and class. We cannot look at loneliness in isolation. It is woven into our economies, our housing systems, our cultural values, and our technologies. And understanding those deeper layers is what helps us build solutions that work, whether through policy, public health, or personal relationships. What does loneliness do to the body? neuroscience, and symptoms, for example. Loneliness is not just a state of mind, it is a biological stressor that affects the body deeply. What the brain does activates the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, elevates cortisol, the stress hormone, disrupts the prefrontal cortex, impairing emotion regulation and decision making, weakens the immune system, and increases system inflammation. Common symptoms: brain fog, fatigue, sleep disturbances, physical pain, memory lapses. A 2017 study published in Alzheimer's and Dementia found that loneliness increases the risk of dementia by 40%. Why is it worse in the digital age? The connection paradox defines our modern reality. We are more connected online but more isolated emotionally. What are the contributing factors? Social media encourages performance and comparison, not authentic bonding. Remote work reduces spontaneous interactions like hallway chats. Pandemic lockdowns normalize virtual connection and emotional distancing. AI assistants and chatbots simulate presence but lack empathy. Despite more tools for communication, we are starved for communion. Who is most at risk? Teens and young adults, highest screen time, lowest real world interaction. Older adults, reduced mobility, bereavement, and shrinking social networks. Remote workers, constant digital contact but emotional detachment. Men, socialized to suppress emotion, many lack close confidence. People with chronic illnesses, physical and emotional barriers to connection. Now, what are the mental health consequences? Loneliness is both a cause and a symptom of mental illness. It drives and is driven by disorders like depression, anxiety, substance use, sleep disorders, cognitive decline, suicidal ideation. In the Journal of Psychiatry in 2022, loneliness is a cyclical force, both a predictor and a product of mental illness. What is the role of AI? Savior or surveillance? AI is now a tool for detecting and predicting emotional isolation. How does it help? Ellipsis Health analyzes voice tone to detect emotional distress. Wobot uses CBT to support users through chat. Care Coach AI avatars offer companionship to older adults. Behavioral analytics detect digital withdrawal from app usage patterns. However, there are real ethical concerns. Is AI helping or monitoring? Are we amplifying connection or replacing it? We must ensure consent, transparency, and human dignity in how AI addresses emotional health. What can be done? Individuals can carve out daily tech free time, replace texting with video or voice calls, join local groups, clubs, or volunteer circles, develop self compassion and emotional openness. Workplaces can offer camera off, mental health breaks, create buddy systems for remote workers, train managers to recognize signs of disengagement. Schools can establish peer mentor programs, teach digital wellness, celebrate diverse social styles, not just extroversion, which is a personality trait that describes people who are generally outgoing, energetic, and social. In the context of mental health or education, it is important not to confuse extroversion with emotional strength or confidence. For example, a quiet person can be just as confident or mentally resilient as an extrovert. They simply recharge differently. Public health and policy fund community gathering spaces, promote social prescribing, such as group based prescriptions, appoint leaders, for example, the UK's Minister of Loneliness model. What can loved ones do? Reach out regularly, even without a reason. Normalize vulnerability in conversation. Invite people into daily rituals, walks, meals, hobbies. Encourage shared experiences, not just advice. A study from Harvard of Adult Development, Waldinger, in 2010. The clearest message from this 80-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier. One may ask, do lonely or isolated people pretend to be happy? What does research say about that? Yes, many lonely or social isolated individuals do pretend to be happy, and this phenomenon is well documented in psychological research. It is sometimes referred to as surface acting or emotional masking. People often suppress their true emotional states, especially feelings of loneliness, sadness, or isolation, to appear functional, likable, or socially acceptable. Here's what the research shows. Emotional masking. It's a common defense mechanism. Lonely individuals often wear a social mask to hide their emotional pain. This tendency is driven by fear of stigma. People will think I'm weak or needy. Fear of burdening others. Cultural expectations to be upbeat and independent. Social media pressures to appear happy and successful. Gross and Levinson in 1993 in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people often engage in emotional suppression during social interactions, which may reduce outward signs of distress, but increase internal stress and feelings of alienation. The hidden toll of pretending. Pretending to be happy when you are not can increase emotional exhaustion, weaken genuine social connections, delay help seeking, worsen symptoms of depression and anxiety over time. Ekman and Friesen's work on facial expressions and deception between 1975 and 1990 demonstrated that people who fake emotions like smiling when sad show micro expressions of distress and experience increased psychological stress, including elevated heart rate and cortisol levels. Social media and the happy persona trap. In the digital age, the need to appear happy is even more pronounced online. A 2017 study from the American Journal of Health Behavior found that, quote, higher levels of loneliness were correlated with more frequent social media use and the posting of curated higher levels of loneliness. A 2017 study from the American Journal of Health Behavior found that, quote, higher levels of loneliness were correlated with more frequent social media use and the posting of curated, idealized self-images, close quote. These curated personas can create a disconnect between one's inner experience and public image, reinforcing the feeling of being misunderstood or unseen. Now, the paradox of smiling depression. Some people suffer from what is often referred to as smiling depression. They appear cheerful and accomplished on the outside, but are deeply lonely or depressed internally, according to the Journal of Affective Disorders in 2018. Quote, individuals with atypical or concealed depression are less likely to seek help and more likely to experience sudden emotional crisis, close quote. What this means for caregivers, employers, and loved ones. Because loneliness is not always visible, those around us may miss the signs or mistakenly assume someone is fine because they are smiling at work, posting happy photos, showing up to events. Nevertheless, these signals can be misleading. Instead, experts recommend looking for withdrawal from deeper conversations, low energy despite a smile, flat affect behind the eyes, frequent reassurances that everything is fine when not asked. Research shows that loneliness can persist even within intimate relationships, including marriage or long term partnerships. A person may live with a spouse or partner and still feel emotionally disconnected, unseen, or unsupported, a phenomenon researchers call emotional loneliness. According to a study published in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy in 2018, marital loneliness occurs when there's a lack of emotional intimacy, even if physical proximity or communication still exists. In fact, couples experiencing conflict or neglect are at greater risk for loneliness than individuals who live alone but maintain strong social bonds. The National Marriage Project also found that emotional fulfillment in a relationship is a stronger predictor of well being than just being partnered. A 2020 study in personality and social psychology review noted that relational quality, not just status, determines loneliness, meaning people in poor relationships often feel lonelier than single individuals with close friendships. Furthermore, stress from unmet emotional needs in a conjugal relationship can amplify feelings of isolation, especially when one partner does not feel heard or emotionally validated. This kind of loneliness may manifest as emotional numbness, sadness, or a sense of emptiness at home, even when daily life looks normal from the outside. In short, being with someone doesn't guarantee connection, and lacking that connection can be one of the most painful forms of isolation. In closing, so where does this leave us? We live in a world where connection is constant, but meaningful connection is declining. We text more, Zoom more, scroll more, but talk less, hug less, and check in less. And the cost? It's not just emotional discomfort, it is biological, it is psychological, and yes, it is even fatal. And the US Surgeon General warned loneliness is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We have seen how loneliness triggers inflammation, disrupts cognitive function, and is tied to depression, anxiety, addiction, and dementia. We have seen how it is shaped by culture, class, technology, and trauma, and how it is often invisible, hiding behind smiles, emojis, and I'm fine. However, here's the hope. We now understand the science, we have the tools, and we can change the narrative. AI and digital tools, when designed ethically, can help us detect emotional withdrawal, offer support, and build bridges back to the community. Nevertheless, it starts with us. Check in, listen deeply, reconnect intentionally. Whether you are a doctor, a developer, a parent, a policymaker, or just a fellow human, you have the power to make someone feel seen. Moreover, if you are the one who's struggling, please know this. You are not alone. Your story matters. Help is out there and healing is possible. Let us build a world where technology supports our humanity, not replaces it. Before you go, if something in today's episode spoke to you, share it. Use the hashtag CyberClinicConnect or message me directly and answer this. Has technology made you feel more connected or more alone? We will feature your responses next week as we continue these vital conversations together. And speaking of connection, next week we are diving into another powerful topic, one that's often hidden in plain sight. We'll explore autism and the phenomenon of masking, how many neurodivergent individuals, especially women and people of color, camouflage their true selves just to fit into a neurotypical world. We'll unpack the emotional and neurological costs of masking, the link to burnout and mental health, and how AI and digital platforms are both helping and complicating the journey to self discovery. If you or someone you love has ever felt like they've had to hide who they are to be accepted, this one's for you. Do not forget to share this episode, subscribe to the CyberClinic podcast, and use the hashtag CyberClinicConnect to keep the conversation going. Until then, I'm Claude Bernard, and this is the Cyber Clinic. Let us stay connected and keep caring. Thank you.